Hello, hello.
I am here.
How we doing?
We're doing good.
Yeah, man. We got our new HDMI cable. You're
That
you're
made a big
looking,
difference.
yeah, you're looking better than ever, man. I don't know about that pirate. I don't know about that pirate's jacket.
It's a rough day for them and the week actually. So
Oh yeah, I haven't really followed it too
they're
much.
one in they're 1 in 5 of us as of the last 10 minutes. So
Oh okay. The Reds were 2-2 when I checked, so I know that the news in baseball. If anybody is curious, what's up, Bubba? Um, if
the
if
Braves.
well, torpedo bats.
Oh, torpedo bat. I still don't know what a torpedo bat is. I assume it's the shape of the bat.
Yeah, we don't want to cross the streams, Bubba. Uh, Also, if someone asks you if you're a god, what do you say?
If they ask me if I'm a god,
Yeah, if yeah, what are you supposed to say?
I would
If
just
you're no,
laugh.
if you're noticing, well, of course you would. You're a pastor, but if you're noticing Bubba's chat here, he said Egon said to never cross the streams, right?
Uh, I get that now.
And then that reminded me of the final scene in Ghostbusters where
Oh, that was a
they
long time ago.
yeah they have to cross the streams, right? But like before that, they're talking to Zool, who is manifested in a very athletic looking lady with red eyes and a sharp haircut.
Athletic looking. That's what it was.
Yeah, athletic. And she said to them, "Are you a god? Are you a god?" And then they like kind of look at each other, and then Dan Aykroyd's like, "No." and then she
No.
and then she like then she like zaps him or something. I'm not exactly sure. I can't remember. And then they said, if somebody asks you if you're a god, you say yes.
Well,
so,
okay.
there you go.
That is a long time. I'm impressed you remember it that long ago.
My memory works selectively, Billy. Uh,
Well, all of us do.
yeah. All right. So today we are going to ask you to go back to your youth pastor days. For those of you who are watching for the first time, Pastor Billy is my former youth pastor in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. He is now the minister at Bluefield Methodist Church, right?
Okay, I'm gonna get picky with you. This is a
Bluefield United
technical
Methodist.
that, and also everybody in my church is a minister. I am the pastor.
That's what
That
I
is my.
meant. Yeah. Okay. You're the pastor. Yeah. You're the one with
I
the
try to teach them not to use that word.
yeah. You're the
Minister
shep. You're the
tried me.
shepherd hook. You're the
Yeah.
hook that brings them back, right? So okay. Well, I'm gonna ask you to go back to your youth pastor days. One of the reasons I wanted to do this, and this is a completely selfish almost reason. I don't know if it's well selfish in some ways, but I mean I have questions about this myself because over the past 10 years or so, uh, at one point I started teaching guitar lessons, and then I had a lot of very very young people
Yeah.
that I was kind of pastoring, so to speak. Uh,
Mentor.
so, whoa, that is a YouTube comment right there. Anyway, are you seeing that?
No, I can't remember how I got to it, so I'll say it
Oh,
from
you know
her.
what? Let me see if I can give you
Because that worked really well last time.
yeah, let me see if I can give you that real quickly. I'll,
Y'all, this is what happens when you're starting out at the beginning.
yeah. So let's see. How do I do this? Oh, I need to send you a message, which means I need to start up a new one of these. Okay, and then real quickly, Billy. Apologize, guys. We are still doing the technical difficulty stuff. All right.
But this time it's on your end? No. Mine's just ignorance on this.
Yeah, something like that, I guess. All right. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't even know how to. If I could only translate that, maybe you can. But he says, God's revealingly, our edgeless, all-wise, win-win, perfect incesty affinitizer.
Fantasizer?
Affinitizer, like having an affinity for something. So,
Oh,
incesty
yeah. Okay.
I don't know. I'm not sure if this guy's I think that's a troll.
That's words that I'm not sure are all words.
Yeah. So, back to what I was saying. I have young men and some young ladies as well that come to me for guidance from time to time, right? And a lot of these kids are, I would say, of the religious mindset, and I am less so, obviously. And I still want to, be sure that I'm speaking the language that they might need to understand when it comes to, the overall message that I think you and I both agree on, which is how do we put our most empathetic foot forward, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're going to watch a video. To be fair, this video, I can't remember when I watched it. I don't remember if I watched it before I had this idea or after. Hello, Dara. This is a guy who and he'll detail some of this stuff in the video. But this is a guy who I think was kind of a directionless young male in England, right? And
Okay.
He's going to detail how it kind of happened that he became kind of this alt-right minded kind of guy.
Okay.
So, I guess let's give it a start.
This video is brought to you by Squarespace.
We'll give him a little advertising.
It had 5G in it or something.
Oh, yeah.
Just because I was so sort of libertarian right-wing.
I skipped ahead somehow. Yeah, we'll let
this
him do
video
his,
is brought to you by
advertising.
Squarespace. Yes,
Squarespace.
my brothers, my brodies, my woadies. I'm going to do another one of these little talk to cams. You might have noticed, through some
Well,
of
you
my
can
videos,
send him
I
money.
officially joined the woke brigade. It's unfortunate. I didn't really want to, but I'm going to talk how we got here. My political arc has been pretty insane. At one point, I was in a Nico Malama video supporting Trump.
Not hearing it.
That's me. I'll admit
You're
it.
not
Blurry
hearing it.
boy.
I just realized
I'm here. Look at
I haven't shared it on your end. Let me, that's my bad. All right, I have to do, and then that.
Hey, I can click on watch
My
stream.
bad, guys. You have to watch that whole thing again for Billy. So I apologize.
Even the Squarespace.
Yeah, well, I guess we can skip that part. I mean, it's only for 2 seconds.
This video
Oh.
is brought to you by Squarespace. Yes, my brothers, my brodies, my woadies. I'm going to do another one of these little talk to cams. You might have noticed, through some of my videos, I officially joined the woke brigade. It's unfortunate. I didn't really want to, but I'm going to talk how we got here. My political arc has been pretty insane. At one point, I was in a Nico Malama video supporting Trump. That's me. I'll admit it. Blurry boy.
Trauma Reporters UK. I'm here. Look at my hat. I love Donald Trump.
So today we're going to talk about how I managed to escape the alt-right pipeline.
Up yours, woke moralists. How
So-
big is Luton?
It's 200,000 population.
All right, so we're starting with some Jordan Peterson here. You know anything about him?
I don't recognize him. Is he the alt-right guy?
No,
I just think that,
no,
because the guy I'm thinking of is younger.
no. Jordan Peterson. My first experience with Jordan Peterson was just, it was probably just scooting around these, channels and like learning about different things. And then one of the young musicians in town messaged me. I'd been on one of my political rants or something, and he messaged me. I guess he wanted to test out some of his ideas, and he ended up bringing up Jordan Peterson. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Because I'd heard some of the things he said at the time. His big deal was, and he's going to talk about this. He was talking about First Amendment type free speech type stuff in a context that was, in my opinion, disingenuous. And a lot of it actually a flat out lie. He made a bigger deal out of something than it was.
Sounds like an alt-right. They're good at abusing the First Amendment while claiming to be defenders of the First Amendment.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Okay. You'll see. Yeah.
And how many lost?
45.
There will never be peace on this earth so long as we have this book. It's a violent and cursed book.
Attacks on mosques. Other minority communities singled out. Wanton violence alongside racist rhetoric.
When I was a young gangster, a YG, I was a little bruh, right? A little bruh. I'm about 13 years old. And we're invited into school. It was mandatory, we weren't invited. And we had to do a speech. So, my mate goes up and he does the history of Chelsea Football Club. A girl goes up and she does about horse riding. I go up with my little thumb drive, plug it in, 9/11. So I basically proceed to radicalise a classroom of young, impressionable 13-year-olds as to why the American government did 9/11.
Who do you believe was behind 9/11?
Criminal elements of the military-industrial complex, the same ones that staged Gulf of Tonkin, the same ones that staged the mass shootings of Operation Gladio.
Right.
Ooh,
I was in this kind of like early conspiracy theory bubble. But what I want to say is it was interesting, right? Because at that time, being a conspiracy theorist wasn't left and right. It was just anti-establishment. And so whilst I was listening to Alex Jones, I'd also be listening to the Young Turks and listening about Occupy Wall Street. So when I was young, I was just a sort of contrarian hipster. I'm not like a communist, but I'm definitely not a capitalist. And I'm definitely left-wing, and I definitely voted to remain in the EU referendum. And so time goes by, I grow up, and I remember I got, I had a few jobs working like fucking Sainsbury's or B&Q, and that was further fueling my sort of anti-capitalist.
It is interesting. Dara just saying Alex Jones makes me want to have a little quick point on him. There was a time when Alex Jones wasn't really political. It was, InfoWars was like, I guess there was some, everything is political in a way with that kind of stuff, but it was just mainly crazy conspiracy theories, right? It wasn't necessarily right or left wing.
I think maybe it might have been right wing in certain ways, appealed to right wing, but the right wing was not in power at the time. Even though Bush was president, he was nuts, but wasn't necessarily that far right, that ridiculous. It wasn't Donald Trump right.
Well, 10 years ago, we're talking, and he's saying, I guess, did he say 10 years? I think he
said 10 years.
Yeah, I think he said 10 years. So,
but he was talking about 9/11.
He talked about giving a speech to his 13-year-old classmates on 9/11. So
that's correct.
10 years ago, Obama's president in his time.
Right. So the Tea Party was rising.
Yes, and this is kind of where I think we get to this fusion, right? And then Pizzagate, as Dara said. Are you familiar with Pizzagate? All these
Absolutely.
Gates. All these gates.
Feelings. But I remember I got one job and I met this geezer and he was a proper right winger.
Capitalism is good because capitalism is freedom. Socialism is bad because
Ben
socialism
Shapiro.
is tyranny.
Is that Strelly?
It was like a right winger in the flesh. I'd never seen
No,
one
Ben
before. I was like, what the
Shapiro.
fuck hell is this? Capitalism good.
Okay.
Welfare state
The hair
bad.
threw me.
NHS bad. But you see, although I deeply disagreed with all of his views at the beginning, you got to remember 13-year-old contrarian Jimmy. He's still in there somewhere. And what he's hearing is contrarian views, you say. Anti-establishment.
So, like, okay, the 13-year-old mind, and I'm going to speak back to, I've talked to you about my incident where Billy, if I'm talking to the audience, Billy took a youth group of us, my church, and down to, I believe it's South Carolina?
Actually, Marion, Virginia.
Oh, it was Virginia. I couldn't remember.
But you were close.
Nah, not even. So Virginia, I don't know. Yeah, and we were there to paint a couple of houses.
Paint houses.
Yeah, and
For some old ladies.
like doing the Lord's work. Although I will say,
Yeah.
I will say that I don't know if we did a good enough job, and that might have been actually worse for them in the long run. I don't know. I mean, I've heard horror stories of like actual professionals saying, "Hey, we had to come in and fix all this stuff after this group of kids came in for a youth group," trying to do some.
Well, keep in mind, there's a reason you were painting and you weren't doing some other jobs.
Fair enough. I mean, painting is,
But I could use some insight into that in the long run, because the nephew of one of those women later became the district superintendent in Oak Ridge District, and that he was still the DS when I came back to the Oak Ridge District as a pastor. And I told him about that. And he said, "Oh, they did a great job." So
Okay.
it was good for them. And it was mostly about protecting the house. It wasn't about making it look pretty.
Bubba, you've mentioned that you were a Wesleyan student, so it wouldn't shock me if that our youth groups had like similar targeted areas.
Well, and also Bubba, the Harry Howe and Project Crossroads was probably the people that you connected with, because while he's a United Methodist, he wouldn't necessarily have cared whether you were a United Methodist or not to come.
Yeah. So, yeah, anyway, moving on. I am a 13-year-old-ish kid. I don't remember exactly. And I am in my what can I get away with? Let me, stretch my legs and be a little naughty here and there. And, I wanted to, and so we had been, I was cleaning off some brushes or whatever, right? And I don't know. I just got this kind of like, the devil on my shoulder, I guess, was telling me like to do a little prank on this car driving by. And as he drove by, I just kind of flicked a little paint in the air and it hit his car. Just a little cut, just like, just some drops. Like, hey, just to see what I could get away with. And I did not get away with it. That dude, he drove up the road.
Slammed on his brakes.
Drove up the road a little bit and went and checked his car, and he found it. He drove back and watched me clean every bit of paint off that. And meanwhile, Billy, full of dark hair, let me just give you, and I am young, is, "Why did you do that?" And I was like, "I was just cleaning off the brushes. I didn't mean to." I was lying. And Billy knew, but I was like, if I just keep up this line.
Like we were all falling for it.
Yeah, I'm 13 years old. I think that I'm clever. So Jimmy the Giant here, he's talking about being 13 and wanting to be contrarian, and I feel like that this is kind of where the right wing, like, I hate to say it, did a really good job with their like media empire, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And how they kind of like started to get, I mean, like, this is a 13-year-old kid. Now, he's obviously clicked on some things, given a conspiracy theory speech and as a 13-year-old in his elementary or middle school, I guess. But yeah, I mean, like he's going to detail how he keeps falling down a little further and further. But it starts with just maybe even hearing a clip of Ben Shapiro also. So I guess we're getting to this point where it's like, how do you guide a 13-year-old through this? And then as they come back to you as an adult, how do you guide them? Like if they've continued down this path, right? So, as you have insights, be sure to say pause it, and because I need some insights,
On mainstream, little old hipster Jimmy lapped up this sort of right-wing rhetoric because I realised it was different to everyone else, and that would make me interesting if I believed all these things, right? And like when I say right-wing, it's not we don't like foreigners. It's stuff like this.
The people who get on welfare lose their human independence and feeling of dignity. They become subject to the dictates and whims of their welfare supervisor, who can tell them whether they can live here or there, whether they may put in a telephone, what they may do with their lives. They're treated like children.
So now I'm at the doors of the alt-right pipeline, right? I pick up my hat with the light, turn the torch on, grab my pickaxe, and I head in. And the first stop is Jordan Peterson.
And then if I'd said to you, please, I'd rather go by she, how would you respond to that on a personal level? How would...
The way I have responded to that, because I've had a number of conversations with transgendered individuals, is that I use whatever pronoun seems to go along with the persona that they're projecting publicly.
How can I describe the fact that someone who was once a woman, and really still is, had her breasts cut off because she, he, they, their, them had fallen prey to a viciously harmful fad?
So bear in mind, I didn't go to university. I went...
So, holy shit. If I came to you with this...
Yes.
I mean, how would you even start with this?
Well, it's interesting. I haven't had to deal with that in the sense of the person on the screen, but I have had two kids in youth groups in my churches as a pastor who are trans. One of them came out after he was out of high school, and I was long gone. He was a 5-year-old kid in last, maybe 9 when I left, I guess. The other came out in middle school. And let me tell you a little subtle thing that I did to let him know that, and I'm saying him because at the time he was still, he was just saying he was gay. He was not trans at the, he didn't come out as trans at that point. He'd only come out as
still. And
he was a 7. He was the age that you were throwing paint, by the way.
So some people are having bigger problems than others. Some people are just stupid,
that's true.
Privileged kids.
And so this kid, who, by the way, could sing, seemingly had perfect pitch. It was amazing what this kid could do. At least before his voice changed, he was the quintessential boy soprano. Anyway, he and his family, his brother and his parents, helped with communion. So they're bringing me the bread and the juice, and I give it to them, and they go out and they go to the rail and they serve the people that came to the rail. We had bought, we had a communion set made of clay that had kind of a bluish color on the outside of it. He had his fingernails painted almost identically the same color. And so as he came up and over to me, to that place where we were at the altar getting ready to disperse the bread in the cup, I said, look, your nails match the communion set. That's all I said.
Mm.
His mother came to me like 3 days later and said how much that meant to him. because I recognized him as valid, valuable, important. Fast forward just a few years, not with that kid, I was in a congregation, different church, that the daughter of the piano player was gay, and she was a pretty conservative person, and she had challenges with it, but she loved her daughter. One of my singers, who was a vocalist that was there because of the pandemic, sing for the camera and to be the one that led singing when we did have people in the building. He was gay. Another vocal guy that to do special music for us, his wife's brother is gay. And one Sunday before the service was beginning, we were up there, chit-chatting about what's going to happen and whatever else. And I don't remember how it came up, but the conversation about pronouns came up briefly. And of course, the two men and I were, whatever somebody wants to be called, that's fine with me. So it's different when you have that conversation with a woman who's dealing with her daughter, who isn't trans but is out, and she has some struggles with it, but she still loves her daughter. To say to her, I don't have a problem saying anybody's pronoun, whatever they want to be called, it's fine with me. But the question you asked was, how do you deal with a 13-year-old or a kid that is
like maybe one who would throw paint on a car?
Yeah, who was struggling with the idea or ready to just kind of leap into whatever they heard on whatever social media streaming platform they're looking at.
And Jennifer, yes, recognition and just, human interaction is a kindness that, just recognize, hey, that's cool. Your nails match the color of the communion set that you're helping with. That's neat.
Yeah.
It's a simple human recognition. That's it.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
That is a kindness that's probably more real than, anything else that you can give.
And I should, so he did not come out to me. His parents came and talked to me. And one of the things that I remember deeply about that conversation was the parent, who is a year younger than me, literally, exactly, came to me and said, this has been a struggle, the couple of weeks or month, maybe a month that he had come out. He said, I had to readjust my focus on the future for my child and what my dreams were for him, because my dreams were not, those weren't the dreams that were going to happen.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to. So, and that was, this is a father struggling not with, should I accept him, but how do I honor him?
Yeah. Move forward.
Yeah. And how do we move forward so that I can be the best dad that I can be, was what I'm trying to do for this son. And also, this is a father who truly understood that the next 4 or 5 years of this kid's life are going to be the hardest, because he's entering high school soon, and imagine that in
sure. Yeah.
Appalachian America.
I'm sure some places are easier than others. Appalachia is probably.
Well, and the singer that was in there who was gay, I was trying really hard to. He didn't really want to talk about it. It was not something that was important to him to talk about. He just is who he was and all that. He said, I don't dwell on it. But I was curious because he grew up in an even more conservative area, or in our political realm, a not ruby red, garnet red place. Where if you're a Democrat, you might as well just hope you get your family's vote.
You're a demon rat, right?
Yeah, that's right.
You're a demon
rat. So, and honestly, the county that we were in when that guy was working for me, the diversity, racially county is 99+% white.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a little away from where you are now. It was not. It was more progressive though, because I knew 3 Democrats in the cabinet.
Okay, all right, 3. Are Democrats even considered progressive at this point?
Well, yeah, these were folks that actually. The funny thing was, somebody told me, said, "Yeah, we had 3 votes for Jesse Jackson one year in the primaries, and we knew who they were." and I know who they were. Like,
right.
Okay, that's
Fair
funny.
enough.
That's a long time ago. Anyway, but your real question is, how do you deal with the kid who's going down this?
How do you deal with the kid who's maybe throwing the paint on the truck? And then 2 weeks later, he's like, this, he brings to youth group, Jordan Peterson. Like,
yeah.
I was just looking to, at that age, just rebel a little bit. Like, this is a different kind of.
Yeah. So, and then there's this perspective. I was also 22 years old at the time. So I didn't have a great deal of perspective on all that stuff either. In fact, I filled out a survey while I was in college as a sociology major that I was a liberal Republican.
A liberal Republican.
That doesn't. Yeah. See, I consider myself liberal, but I also consider myself a Republican.
You just were from the South. You didn't know what to say.
Well, no. Keep in mind, this was the first time I voted. It was Ronald Reagan was running.
Fair enough. And I've told people this before. For me, if I was a person of voting age, I would have voted for W. Just because. Well, I mean, I guess I was of voting age then. I just didn't vote. But yeah, I didn't. Yeah, he would have been the first case I would have. Vote. I would have. Yeah, I didn't vote, but I would have voted for Bush if I was going to. I had a different opinion of Republicans back then, and it wasn't necessarily because Republicans were better. It was because I didn't know anything, and that's kind of what my whole life was around here, in East Tennessee.
Yeah. Now, by the time I got to where I was the youth director at that church, I should say that I had really started to move. Had a girlfriend that kind of opened my eyes a little bit. Another one that debated things like she liked to debate, and I had a roommate at the time who would just really love to debate. He was a history major. He had a picture of Ronald Reagan up on the wall. I never would have put a picture of Ronald Reagan on the wall, but I was around people that were politically active who were Republicans. But these girlfriends, have conversations, and there were things that we agreed on. For instance, capital punishment was one of those. We had a very gay friend. I joke because I say that because he laughed and said that about him.
A very gay friend.
Yeah, he was flaming. So, but celibate, so he never came out to anybody. And my girlfriend and I were having a conversation, and we said, if he weren't celibate, he would be gay. And she asked him one day, she said, "What do you think about that?" And he said, "Well, yeah." But anyway, my point was that I had moved quite a bit in understanding how the political stuff was related to the social stuff. And the conversation about capital punishment made me question a lot of other things. And then I know this is going to sound really strange. One of the second girl that I had dated, she was a big Al Gore fan.
Al Gore.
She really thought the world of Al Gore, and I didn't really understand why. I was in Tennessee. I didn't have anything against Al Gore, but and this is where it gets really strange. I watched C-SPAN. And I don't know if y'all know this about Al Gore. He actually reached across the aisle a lot when he was a senator.
I mean, I would imagine he had.
And
He
yeah.
he was a Tennessee Democrat. You know, this is
Sure, yeah. And the wave of Tennessee started in Johnson City, in the Tri-Cities area, and moved across the state. And when I was in Pikeville, Tennessee, that county was the Clinton-Dole election, and Bill Clinton won by like 1% in that county. It was that tight. So how do you deal with a kid who's rebelling?
we kind of went off track a bit, yeah.
Yeah. And and all that's kind of to say, I don't know that I would have been very good to help with that
back then,
because I was 22, naive, and stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And
do you think that there's a lot of? Do you think that there are a lot of youth groups in America that get the wrong messages?
Oh God, yes. I will tell you that in my experience I've only hired two youth. Well, I hired one youth director and it was a flop. I had another youth director who was very good at her job. She was very good at her job because she was trained well. She was also about 2. She wasn't 19. The other one was older, but carried a gun with her everywhere she went. And I think that the problem with her was the reason it was a failure was in part because she really didn't have the grounding in theology that I think we thought she had. And secondly, and most importantly, is that she really didn't touch the parents. And
when you say grounding in theology, are you saying like she just wanted to be away and she felt like because she felt away, that must be the way that the Lord thinks, kind of thing? Or like...
No, I think, she certainly didn't have a theology that was Methodist or Wesleyan or anything like that. That didn't coincide with us. I think she got a lot of her theology from poor theologians to begin with, right?
Okay.
Maybe even some right-wing stuff. But more importantly, it was more just very shallow theology,
right.
Bumper sticker theology.
So would you say she would have handled this kid poorly?
Back then, yes. Today, no. She would very differently today.
Gotcha.
Again, she's matured. She's been through hell. We're friends on Facebook, and occasionally I don't see her physically occasionally, but
are you also saying that you would be more equipped to handle this kind of situation now?
Oh God, yeah.
So maybe we should ask you, Billy, now to time travel back to Billy then. I'll tell you what. Let's watch further in the video. We've been riffing on this for a minute, and we're 4 minutes into the video. So let's move a little further, and maybe we'll get some more thoughts about it and some notes on the.
Let's dance where the algorithm takes us.
Yeah, Alex P. Keaton. Yeah, I don't know if I would have called myself an Alex P. Keaton. He actually had. You know what? Alex P. Keaton might be the first person that was. Social media back then was TV, and let's just say Alex P. Keaton was maybe indoctrinated into his own little right-wing bubble.
And one of you said social
80s,
liberal.
That's some 80s stuff right there.
Yeah, and there's one that said the fiscally conservative but socially liberal. Certainly, I was more toward that at the time, especially while I was in seminary. Paul Tsongas was the person that I was looking for to run for president, and he was a bit more conservative, fiscally, but not liberally. But then Paul Wellstone was a hero later. So,
all right, let's move on.
And just tried to make little businesses. I did a parkour brand. I ran a vegan food store. I did lots of little things, and very importantly, I was not academic. Jordan Peterson to young Jimmy sounded like how I imagine smart people sound.
So even if you do happen to be that avatar of moral purity that you claim implicitly, the probability that you'd get to act out your goodness in relationship to those possessed by your ideology is 0.
He would use big words. He would do this with his hands. He would think and contemplate. Like, he was the sort of caricature of a smart person. And it was very interesting because all of his views tended to be quite contrarian to sort of mainstream views. And he would, again, like my friend, he would talk about the benefits of capitalism. He would talk about natural hierarchies and that it wasn't capitalism's fault for hierarchies, but hierarchies are natural. And so it's very interesting because if you think about what Jordan Peterson is and what he thinks and his words now, back in 2016, it was very different, right?
As a matter of respect, in fact, would you refer to a trans person who asks you to use the they them pronouns, a pronoun which has a several hundred-year historical...
But that's not what we're talking about.
He rises to fame on what he is portraying as a free speech battle. The Canadian government are trying to make it so that if you say the wrong pronouns to a transgender person, you will go to jail. And Jordan Peterson never says something like, I don't believe in trans people, and so I don't believe I should say their pronouns. He's not saying that people who do transgender surgeries are butchers. He is saying that by law, I shouldn't be forced to say anything.
Difference between saying that there's something you can't say and saying that there are things that you have to say. And I regard these made-up pronouns, all of them, as the neologisms of radical PC authoritarians.
As I grew up, I kind of realized he misrepresented this bill and he was blowing things out of proportion. But if we...
Yes. He was never in trouble. This was just a way, you know... And look, here's the reality. The easiest end around for people with hateful thought to get into the conversation is to attack it from a standpoint of like, you're not respecting my free speech. It's just free speech, right? So if they can get you into an argument, if it's a free speech argument or not, then that kind of like bypasses the actual content of the argument a little bit. So this is why they do it.
Right. And it's the idea that if I tell you it's a free speech issue or a religious rights issue, you hear a lot. They want to defend religious rights. What they want to do is make sure that everyone accepts their religious right and not others, because they want to take away the religious rights of Muslims or even liberal Christians or, you know, all kinds of folks. But I was saying this way early on here is that they put that free speech thing and then they do just the opposite. They say not only should I not be forced to call you they, them, or whatever other pronoun, you know, whichever pronoun you want. Not should I be forced to, and I love that he said made up pronouns. Huh? I mean, there was an attempt to try to come up with a different pronoun than they, but they has been used as a plural and singular pronoun for centuries.
It's undefined. You know, the easiest way for, if anybody listen, I'm going to give you the tutorial. Here's the tutorial. You say what is preferred, and if it's undefined, it's they, them, right? And when I say they, them, and is undefined, I'm not saying like, yeah, we're non-binary. I mean, it's this is part of it, right? I'm saying that if it's undefined, that's the easiest thing. So if you said, what are we ordering for lunch, right? And then somebody says, I don't know. They already went to go get it. Well, they're talking about the one person. We don't know if this is male or female, right?
Very good, yeah.
Right. So, you know, and if it's undefined and it's, you know, at that moment, it's they, them. And if somebody says, hey, I don't really, like, I feel somewhere in between. Like, I believe gender is non-binary. I fully express, you know, traits from both, you know, typical genders or whatever, you know, and they want they, them, you know, because they're saying to themselves, it's really kind of undefined, right? So they're telling you it's really kind of undefined. So you can do it like this, right? That's all it is. So that's the tutorial. All right. Let's.
So when I was in college, I was taking a class called sex roles.
Mm-hmm.
And I always felt like the class should not be called sex roles. It should be called gender roles. This was 1980, late 80s.
Sure.
And I always felt that way. And the odd thing was that all of the what do they call those things? The magazines that you go to that aren't magazines, but there were people who published their studies. All of those on that issue were called they either were called sex roles or they used the word sex entirely to refer to gender. And I always said, well, sex is really more of a physical thing. I don't mean it the act of sex. I mean, sex is a physical thing, but gender is, and I didn't have the words to say gender is fluid, gender is, any of that kind of stuff. That even the words that you hear all the time now that you probably have heard for 20 years.
Right.
Gender is a social construct.
Sure.
But I somehow, yeah.
All that can be. Listen, we can go down and like parse through, like if it's this, for me, the easiest way is just like, well, what are you saying it is? You know better than me. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, if they tell me what it is, good to go. That's all I have to do.
Yeah, and I was, the other thing I was going to comment on real quick there was he said he used the word PC as the letters PC as to indicate political correctness as a terrible thing.
Well,
Political correctness it was a movement that started at Berkeley, and it kind of fell apart a long ago. But Republicans and conservative alt-rights and far-right and all that have used it as a battering ram for generations now to say PC is the forcing of something that it's not.
The PC,
it just means
tyrannical.
It just means don't be a jerk.
Tyrannical kindness.
Yeah, it just means don't be a jerk.
Yeah, tyrannical kindness. You're too woke, Billy.
If we just take it on face value and believe what he was saying, then yeah, it seemed illogical to oppose what he was saying. And so whilst I'm going through Jordan Peterson's books, his podcasts, his speeches, etc., I'm getting this feeling that there's this sort of crazy, indoctrinated Marxist left who are trying to suppress your freedom and usher in communism. And so all this is happening all the way in Canada where no one gives a fuck about. But what about here in Britain, right? In Britain, we have a sort of similar scenario. And it involves a man, a very controversial man, by the name of Tommy Robinson. Before we go any further, I want to give a massive shout out to today's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is undoubtedly the best, I'm not kidding, the best platform when it comes to making websites. Right. Beautiful websites. Ones
since
that are
we're watching this video, I feel like,
with their new design intelligence, which combines the newest AI technology,
like,
plus their years of understanding and crafting beautiful website templates.
My hope is that more people
you can now literally type in prompts to the AI and it will create a bespoke website to you and your brand. As well as that, their payment system. So if you're selling goods online and people, maybe you have customers around the world, Squarespace takes so many different types of payments, it's now easier than ever. From Klarna to ACH, Direct Debit, Apple Pay, and you can even do buy now, pay later with Afterpay and ClearPay. And also, the laborious job of writing product descriptions has got a whole world easier with Squarespace's Blueprint AI. You can just bang in a prompt, it'll shoot out some text, you can tweak it and change it, and it's really going to save you time.
Dear, I didn't say
use the code Jimmy the Giant.
Her comment was gender, sex, diversity. Bad words. Don't use them.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, back to the video.
It's good that sarcasm can come from
this book is the reason. This book is the reason we're in such a mess.
I find it funny. We got Piers Morgan over here.
Piers Morgan.
And he hasn't completely shifted over to his little right-wing contrarian arc yet, but
this book is the reason we're in such a mess.
Let's talk about the Quran there.
Boys, I'm not proud of this, but I'm just being an honest person. I'm trying to explain where I was at, how I got to where I was, and how I am where I am now. And so I come across Tommy Robinson in this period of time where he goes to jail for, as he's presenting it to the audience online, trying to report on Muslim grooming gangs. He goes to jail. And I see this as a suppression of journalism, a suppression of free speech by a tyrannical government.
Britain equals North Korea.
And I ignored the fact that it was contempt of court, and he knew exactly it was contempt of court, and he did it deliberately to provoke this reaction. But the way it was being presented was very clever. Again, it was all about free speech. It wasn't about the underlying issue of Islam, etc., but it was just about free speech. And so when you're already primed to be sort of libertarian, pro-free speech, and you're perceiving these attacks on free speech, you start to wonder, Why are they attacking these people for their speech? And it unfortunately has this effect of making you think that the person is a truth teller and the government are trying to suppress them. And it reinforces your belief in what they're saying must have some truth to it if they want to hide it so bad. And these people, these what I would now consider grifters, they know that. They know that that's the response and the feeling it's going to create in people. They want to be martyrs because then people will follow them even more ardently.
It's so important for the establishment because they know I've reached the people. They know
Free Tommy Robinson.
By the way, pause that a second. So that comment about the previous cartoon that they showed that said, was Galileo and all that.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is that I hear this with youth groups, especially things I see online, that youth groups are youth pastors or whatever are teaching their youth as much as things like they use the term grooming there. Gay people are trying to groom you and all this stuff. But the other, one of the passages of scripture that is often thrown at these youth is the idea, I can't get the quote in my head exactly, forgive me for that, but that you must be an ambassador for Christ, and if you're being attacked, then you must be on the right path. That you're taking punishment for Christ. And then so the youth feel good about themselves for saying things that are harmful to people because they know they're on the edge, and they're like you were that seventh grader trying to say you're trying to find that edge to stand out, to get attention or whatever. It's very compelling I see it in a lot of, like, I go to where I'm going to be the pastor, I'll see the same passages put up on the walls of youth group rooms that say things like that says this, that when they revile you for the message, then you're on the right track, basically. When they revile you and hate you, you're doing good job. And you can get that reviled and hatred in a lot of ways. You can be right or wrong and still get it. But so no matter whether you're right or wrong, you get the validation because you get people opposing you. And you think about a young mind and what that says to them. It says, I want validation. I'm going to get opposed. So the more edgy I can be, the more likely I can get this validation.
Right.
If mom and dad are yelling at me, fine.
I guess what I'm trying to figure out here is how do you combat this allure?
Yeah.
Like, these dudes are having the time of their life.
And so I go to like a rally, like a free
dudes.
speech rally when Tommy Robinson
There's some women
go to
in
jail, and I come across Nico, and I see Nico, and I've seen him online, and I saw how he was trying to present everyone that went to a Tommy Robinson rally as a racist. And I knew, from my perspective and knowing who I was, I knew I wasn't a racist. And so I got up to Nico, and
this is fun, right? Like he's having this kind of like, I'm not, but like he doesn't realize what he's doing, right?
Tell the people around him that he's trolling you and he's trying to like make you look stupid online. And then Nico does misrepresent me in the video, and he says that I went up to the police and told them to get rid of Nico.
The police then came over and surprise, he started crying to them as well.
When in reality, I was actually saying to the police that Nico has his free speech. Because, I'm fucking obsessed with free speech in this period of time. I don't know why. I think it's the single most important thing on earth. But either way, like, as much as I disagree with myself for being at that rally and supporting Tommy Robinson in that time, I still stand by the fact that I don't think these people understood why people were presenting them as racist, right? And I just want to touch on that.
Tell me a Trump policy right now.
I support...
Fake, waffle. You're waffling, man. Yeah, answer the question.
I support his trade policy.
How dare you fake this? How dare you?
Now from, the...
Jennifer, it's frustrating, isn't it? Like, living in the South, I have conservative friends that have no idea about the ideas they espouse.
Mm.
Like they just don't even know what they're saying.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating, right? When they start going down these, racist light kind of talking points, right? And Nazi light kind of talking points, right? The complaining about the George Soros type stuff. Listen, I think there's plenty of complaints to be aimed at billionaires. Don't get the wrong impression. But there's a specific reason why he's the one, right? So it's tough to be adjacent to these folks, because I do believe, like, if we're doing what we're trying to practice, which is put our most empathetic foot forward, we're also trying to give people the same time, or giving them time to improve on their own, right? And I have to, remember myself, what I was like at one point, right? And be like, it took me a minute or two to kind of like come around to more empathetic points of view. So, all right. Anyway.
Yeah, and if you go over the mountain to the west, they don't even hide.
Yeah.
The view I have now, I understand there are sort of two types of racism. There's like overt racism, which is like, I fucking hate migrants when you send them back, they're the worst. And then you have this kind of more like subconscious racism, or like in effect racism. And what I mean by that is, like, I knew I wasn't racist because I grew up very multiculturally, and I liked people of different races. I had lots of friendships with them, and I got along with them very well. So I never in my heart felt anything bad towards people of different races. But what can happen from there is, when you think you're like immune to racism, you sometimes are more susceptible to it in a way, but just a different type of racism. These grifters know they can't just say that, I don't know, black people are inferior genetically, although some of them have started doing that again. They found sneakier ways of wrapping it, often by hiding behind culture. These pundits will lie and say stuff like 84% of grooming gangs are Asian Pakistani, which has been endlessly disproven. It is white people who make up the majority of grooming gangs. But all this misinformation can lead you to believe that their culture is inferior to ours, and therefore we can't mix. And with the Tommy Robinson thing, it's kind of the same when it comes to Islam, right? You didn't hate people for being like having brown skin. You were simply critiquing their ideology, their beliefs.
You wouldn't do that with
Sir William
Would you do that with the Bible? Show some respect.
Show some respect.
Show some respect.
Have you read this book?
For people.
Have you read this
there
book?
Are over
There's
a billion people.
So, I'm listening to the great.
So let's have an uncomfortable talk. Piers Morgan actually makes a great point here, right? Like, would you do that?
He does, yeah.
Would you do that with the Bible? And if Tommy Robinson was being honest about that, right, then he'd say, well, there's some pretty crappy stuff in the Bible that's very much like the Quran.
He mentions 100 or so verses of something, and I'm thinking, what about the many hundreds of verses that condone slavery in the Bible?
Mm-hmm.
And people want to argue, well, it didn't mean the same kind of slavery. That's BS.
So here we go. So I'm 13 years old. I'm bringing you all this stuff, right? And I'm saying this Jordan Peterson stuff. And then I say, Tommy Robinson here says, look at all the problems the Quran has brought up. Now, have you gone back in your time machine to tell younger Billy that the kid who's going to throw paint, the kid that threw paint on the car, is going to come to you and he's going to have these questions and here's how to answer them, right? You're going to say what? The Bible has slavery. Like, we're in youth group. Are you going to tell Billy to say, well, tell him that the Bible has slavery in it? So now you're going to be like at the youth group and putting doubts and yeah.
So my piece of advice to me would be, shut up and listen. Figure out try to understand where it's coming from. Why does this bother him so much? Why is it such a concern? Why is that his argument? That would be my first thing.
I'm really concerned about free speech, like Jimmy the Giant here.
But as a 13-year-old, you really. So what do you mean by that? Do you even understand what that means? So then we can talk about.
All right. Imagine I'm 18 now.
So the one piece of scripture that comes to mind is the advice of get the log out of your own eye before you try to get the speck out of another's. So you wanted to help them understand, why do you have this anger? Why do you have rage? What is it? And I wouldn't try to, you can't debate somebody on what think they know about the Quran when they don't. Because he's saying, have you read this book? I'm going to bet he hadn't read the book either.
I don't know. I wouldn't want to.
I'm going to bet that he has. No, but I get that. But he hasn't read it with any intent to understand it. He's
no. He's discounting. As Piers Morgan said, he's like, "Would you do that with the Bible?" Right.
Right. And he's saying, no, I wouldn't, because I don't expect it. And that's the other part of what Piers Morgan is saying.
Right.
So as a Boy Scout, when I was a Boy Scout, I was an Eagle Scout. We would do the 12 laws. Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, say those words, clean, and reverent. And reverent, as defined by the Boy Scouts back there, was respecting other people's religions, respecting other people's points of view and faith. By the way, I don't think the Boy Scout is that definition today, because they've gone a little right-wing themselves.
Oh, have they?
Yeah,
the last I heard from the Boy Scouts, they were allowing girls in.
Yes, you know why? Because they were struggling financially, and they figured they could start troops with girls. It makes their market bigger.
Sure, that was just a financial thing.
Yeah, I mean, I will tell you, I've been part of a couple of Scouting of America. I don't remember. They're trying to, they're known as BSC, and so they've tried to come up with some way to say that isn't Boy Scouts. I've been a part of at least two troops, or one troop in particular that was a girls' troop in Boy Scouts. When I was in college, they first started allowing women to be scoutmasters of Boy Scout troops, not just cub belows. But and those people that were interested in the girls' troop were interested because they felt like the Girl Scout programs that were out there weren't offering their girls a chance to go camping and do the things that Boy Scouts did. And they really believe that. And I think that's legitimate, and I think that's honest, and I think that's fair. Mm-hmm. Girl Scout troops are somewhat built around the direction the troop wants to go, and not just around the same kind of fake pseudo-military thing. But they also ban kids who...
Whoa, slow down. When you say fake pseudo-military thing, you're talking about the Boy Scouts? Yeah?
We were in uniform. We were in troops and patrols.
Sure. I never looked at the Boy Scouts as like this kind of indoctrination force for this kind of stuff. Scout
comes from the idea that if you're going to do a military maneuver, first thing you do is send out scouts.
Wow. Okay, so Dara is telling me that atheists and agnostics are not welcome in the Boy Scouts?
Right. So they would not allow you to become an Eagle Scout if you didn't believe in God. It didn't say you had to believe in a Christian God, just that you had to say you believe in a God. And that was not something we ever talked about when I was a kid.
Could you believe in? Could you say
you could lie about it?
Well, you could lie about it, but could you do like the Church of Satan and be like, well, yeah, we worship Satan?
I'm sure they would find a way around that. And it's not that they don't have Muslim troops, and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for many years was the largest sponsoring organization of boy troops in the country. The United Methodist Church was second, and then we went back and forth on that for years. But at some point, then they also had issues with gay scouts and gay leaders, and it was this whole idea that if you're a gay man, then you're recruiting gay boys, or you're a pedophile.
Wow. Do you denounce the Boy Scouts now?
I don't denounce it, but I don't necessarily jump up and down with pride for it.
Interesting.
Because at the higher up level, they really tick me off a lot. On the level with the kids, I support a lot of what they do. I find that a lot of the leaders tend to be more far right leaders, and their ideologies and their interest in what they want to encourage those kids to do is a little different than what I went through. And my Scoutmaster was 37 years as a Scoutmaster, had 40 something Eagle Scouts in his time, and but he was also a right wing Republican. But he was a good man and believed in helping kids become better men.
Sure.
And that was the goal. You know, I have a lot of pride and joy of what
you
they
have
do.
Mixed feelings.
But I am ambivalent.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Moving on to Jimmy the Giant. We are dragging. We keep talking. I mean, I guess it's a talk show. And yeah, A for the Church of Fonz. That's what we I worship the Fonzarelli. Can I be in the
that's right. That is the second.
And when we say, instead of how they do what is the Ode to Joy, right? And at the end, amen. Yeah, we amen, right? Amen. So.
Yeah.
Greatest hits, right? I'm listening to Ben Shapiro debate some 12-year-old feminist. I'm listening to Jordan Peterson, Matt Walsh, I'm Joe Rogan till I fucking die. And I find myself accepting that I must be right-wing now. And little hipster Jimmy, that's cool because now I'm different to everyone. I'm the contrarian, right? I have all the different opinions. Oh no, the sky isn't blue. Actually, no, it's a shade of maroon. And when you're listening to all this stuff, you get this sort of impression of the left, what you're perceiving the left to be like, basically the worst of the left.
You know you're a millennial when you question whether or not it's ethical to bring children into this world. Because of climate change. We don't really know whether or not the world's going to be habitable in 30 years.
And so you just get pushed further and further right from more of a reactionary position rather than some actual ideological and maybe academic understanding of economies and politics. It just sort of is a feeling. And it's so funny, when Ben Shapiro and these sort of people get famous off of facts don't care about your feelings. But to be honest, conservatives these days, it just seems to be mainly emotion. It's how they feel about topics. They hate when you bring up academic papers and actual facts, and they don't trust any of that.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs. The people that came in, they're eating the cats.
Let's just have a moment of silence for a second while we again realize that man is president.
Oh yeah, and she's not. The funny thing is that when that all came out, you remember there were two stories that they were touting.
Mm-hmm.
There was this one, and there was also the in Colorado, I can't think of the name of the area. It's a little east of Denver, that area of Colorado they were talking about. And they were claiming the gangs were taking over the apartments and all of this stuff. And Lauren Boebert was all in on that too.
Yeah, Boebert.
So I happened to have been in Denver at the time, because I'm a world tour. And, and we were staying in Denver
wait,
for
you're a
week and a half. I'm a world traveler.
World traveler. Okay. Yeah.
But, we went to Denver for a week and a half, 10 days, something like that. And as we were driving around Denver, and we just got on one road and drove all the way from the west side of Denver all the way to the east side of Denver, which is where Aurora, Colorado is. And I think that was the one they were talking about, the town. They were talking about the gangs, I think it was Venezuelan gangs that were taking over the apartments and all that stuff. And because we're listening on the news, the sheriff's going, no, that's not what's happening. And they were making crap up then too.
Sure.
There was a confession. There was an issue. It was handled by the police pretty well, actually. It was a gang problem. It was not the whole city being shut down by the gangs. We drove through it.
I believe the thing that, and this is related to the video that we're watching, is that I mean, the
Yes,
right wing is just willing to, like, if there's even a shred of like truth to a story, like for instance, when I say shred of truth, there's an apartment building, right? Like that's the only truth, right?
And there was a nervous lady in the apartment.
Yeah, but I'm saying is that a lot of what I feel like is going on is just, you know, how do you get to a young person and say, look, man, I'm sorry, but you just believe a lot of lies.
Yeah.
How do you, without insulting them, like their intelligence or whatever?
They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
And ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just.
Either way, I find myself as a right winger. I have not descended into overtly racist beliefs or overtly transphobic beliefs, misogynistic beliefs. I haven't gone that far, but I probably do house some sort of unconscious discriminatory beliefs in maybe trans people, perhaps even women to a degree. Again, often wrapping their push for equality and better rights as some kind of Marxist revolution. But I believe in the typical sort of right-wing viewpoint that the state should be smaller, that people are responsible for themselves, and probably that like.
So, the specter of Ayn Rand is behind him. Ayn Rand.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Poor people are just lazy and they need to fix their own shit, and that billionaires and corporations are really good and, like, you know, sort of, unless they're the ones that, I don't know, Russell Brand says is bad, and then all of a sudden they're bad because they're tied to, I don't know, George Soros. George Soros business, bad. Bill Gates business, bad. But Elon Musk buying Twitter, good.
Speaking of Elon Musk, this is always the funniest thing because, you know, in the right-wing conspiracy circles, you have, you know, the George Soros thing is like, it's just rampant, right? And it's like he pays to influence elections. So check this out. This happened yesterday. This is Elon Musk, the richest man in the world. This is Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, handing out $1 million checks to people who signed up for this election in Wisconsin over their Supreme Court justices, right? And whether they can what they want is to be able to, they want to gerrymander an already gerrymandered state even further, from what I understand. So what you're going to see is a bunch of people don't like Elon Musk right now, and a bunch of people boo him, and he has the nerve to say what he says here.
As you may have seen with stuff that we've posted on the Doge.gov website and the Doge handle on the X platform, there is a tremendous amount of waste and fraud in the federal government. Like, shocking, really.
Because you call it that.
Yeah, so fraud is specific. That's a crime.
Yes.
Right? And there have not been anybody that's been like, no, it's just been like, hey, let's fire the park rangers. It's fraud. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
It's insane. Yeah. It's really wild.
The crowd knows it.
So, like, I mean, it was inevitable that at least a few Soros operatives would be in the audience.
Soros operatives. He's literally paying people. This is his town hall where he's going to be giving $1 million checks. And by the way, one of the people that he gave the $1 million check to is the president of the Republicans, college Republicans at I guess Wisconsin, Green Bay, I guess.
So it's not even a rant.
Yeah, I'm not even sure that. I mean, I guess maybe it could have been just by chance, but, like, you know, that would be some chance, right? But yeah, I mean, it's just like, this dude's a bad dude, man, and like that is hypocrisy to the, like, it doesn't get any bigger. It does not.
And keep in mind that 8 months ago, every Republican hated Elon Musk.
8 months? Not 8 months.
Well, we're now in April, so we've got 3 months at the end of the year plus a month and a half. That's 4 or 5 months since the election. 4.5 months, almost 5 months since the election.
Elon Musk has been shifting right for a long time.
Yeah, but they hated the Republican fan base did not know that.
Right.
They just saw him as the guy with Tesla.
The electric car guy, yeah.
I have this friend that is way off the deep end on the right hand side. Used to say, I'm not a supporter of Trump, but he keeps putting all this crap up there.
Carries the water, right?
He carries the water pretty well, and he would have been 9 months ago. Anytime he heard any story about Tesla being recalled or something like that, see how evil it is, and he's making it worse and all that stuff. And in fact, one day, the Tesla recalled something like 90,000 cars. The very same day, Ford recalled something like 3.5 million F-50s. No one talked about the Ford recall. They only talked about the Tesla recall. Anyway.
Test. 1, 2, 3. Oh.
Did you lose me?
No. Carla mentioned that the Wisconsin Dem is winning the Supreme Court, and test.
Yeah, she was.
I believe that's friend of the show and thorn in my debating side during the day. Sometimes Ed Manis, he was testing to see if his chat was working. I think so.
Oh, okay. He's on a different. I'm on Facebook for that right now. So
yeah, well, he's the link I sent you. He's on YouTube. So all right.
How'd you send me the link?
I sent it to you through Facebook in Messenger.
Okay. Give my regards to George. Say hi to George from me.
Yeah. See, it's hilarious.
Very good.
Hypocrisy is their number one thing.
Right? I'm deep. COVID happens. Obviously, I don't get vaxxed. I don't wear the mask. I'm sorry if I killed anyone. And, again, I regret that position now. I literally didn't want to get vaxxed, not because I thought it had 5G in it or something, but just because I was so sort of libertarian right wing that I didn't like the fact the government were telling me to do it. And I don't know, I'm here today, I'm vaccinated, and the woke police haven't come to my door yet, so probably I was overreacting.
Vaccine passports. While we've been looking in other directions, they are being slowly yet deliberately introduced. Are they the linchpin in a global surveillance network?
So you might be wondering, what was the moment? When did it all change? When did the dam break? And there was a moment, right? And I can kind of point to it specifically. And it was through making my videos. Now, as you know, you guys are watching, you're probably really into all the social political stuff I do. But originally, I was a parkour YouTuber, and then I become like an extreme sports YouTuber. And when I got to the end of this period in 2022, I wanted to diversify my content, right? And I remember genuinely, I thought I was probably even going to make like those sort of right-wing documentary series, like things like Jen or like some of Moon's stuff,
which are very prevalent on a new account.
But you see, because I was a smart bruh and I could read the room, I knew that I could make a video why Jordan Peterson's the best man alive. I knew I had to take my time to kind of meander. So I made a video on a very specific topic about chavs.
Clothing brands that you didn't like were called chavvy. Rough neighborhoods were considered chav infested. But what exactly is a chav? And most importantly, where did they all go?
And so I made this video. It's really interesting if you rewatch it, because my biases and all of my thinking going into this video is...
Chav. Do you know what a chav is? I had to look it up.
No.
So, do you know who Sacha Baron Cohen is?
Unfortunately, yes.
Unfortunately? You've seen some of his comedy then. So,
yeah.
He had one of his characters was Ali G.
Yeah.
I guess. He was always in the tracksuit and just saying a bunch of dumb stuff, right? So
exactly,
he's talking about he's going to get into it a little further, but he's talking about a specific style that was kind of like adopted by the working class, lower educated folk.
is that chavs are bad because they were dickheads and they chose to be bad. But whilst making the video and wanting to address the question, like, where did chavs go? Why did they disappear? I stumbled across a geezer called Owen Jones.
A geezer? Can't hear him. Can you hear him?
Yes. You can't hear the video now?
I hear that it's there, but I can't hear him.
I can maybe turn him up. Maybe. No, I can't.
No? That's interesting. I was hearing fine.
He's a
till I went to his video.
He's a little quiet. He's a little quiet. So maybe turn up your headphones.
I think they're as up as they go.
Called Owen Jones.
Jennifer says nope.
I see Owen Jones and all of my, but you see it in the video. I'm like, look, guys, I'm about to quote Owen Jones. I don't agree with him, but what he says about chavs is really interesting. You should probably listen to it.
Truly a war in the public sphere. The author and journalist Owen Jones, who I have to admit, I don't really agree with him on a lot. He wrote an entire book called Chavs.
So I read it and I'm like, fuck, maybe chavs were like a product of their environment and their economic status. Bear in mind, this is the opposite. This is the antithesis of my view,
Right.
is that I would have believed as a right-winger that cultures are just like people who make decisions to behave in the way they want to. So these are bad people who are choosing to be bad.
Oh. No video sound for you guys? Really?
Yeah, none of us heard that guy.
Nobody heard anything.
Not the guy that he was playing the video of. It was just squeaky. But then when he comes back on, it's loud because I turned everything up.
That's strange. I don't think I have anything to do with that. Do we want to rewind it?
You rewound it and it didn't make a difference.
So
tell us what he said.
So Owen Jones is making a point that this is basically just like a class issue, right? He's saying, like, you know, it was kind of a reaction to we're all middle class, like this idea that we're all middle class, and it ended up being a reflection of this, right?
Okay.
And what the thing was, when Jimmy heard this, it was like, what? You mean people's economic and social situations have, you know, mass implications on the way they dress and like what they act like? Right. It was almost like, you know.
I don't really agree with him on a lot. He wrote an entire book called Chavs.
So I read it and I'm like, fuck, maybe chavs were like a product of their environment and their economic status. Bear in mind, this is the opposite. This is the antithesis of my view, is that I would have believed as a right-winger that cultures are just like people who make decisions to behave in the way they want to. So these are bad people who are choosing to be bad. So after this video, I go down different rabbit holes. I'm making different subcultures. I do skinheads and I do football hooligans, which are both in a very interesting period of time, which is the Thatcher era. And the more I research into Thatcher and see how she completely flipped this country on its head, she completely radicalized Britain into being extreme neoliberal capitalists. And it's kind of become just assumed that that's how the world has always worked. That's how we are. But then I discovered that at some point in society, we weren't fucking insane capitalists that we are right now. I've discovered this because there was a period of time called the post-war consensus, which I talk about fucking endlessly on this channel. But in that period of time, we followed a style of economics that was called Keynesianism, which meant that the government's job was to...
Oh, wrong one. Hold on. Oh, I think, never mind. I had a...
You lost the tab.
I lost the tab. I had the economic
make sure everyone was employed and
it's not that important.
To tax the wealthy at higher rates, use that money to build infrastructure that benefited the people. And then bear in mind, you know, I'm listening to Donald Trump saying, make America great again, and everyone's harping on about how the world was better back in like the 60s and 50s. And then I find out the reason why it was better was because we had mass public investment. This investment led to the greatest economic boom in history, raised many of the working class into the middle class, which created a whole host of new industries, new products, basically, it was good shit. What we did then was good. And you got to bear in mind that I am being told the only answer to life's problems is dog eat dog, free market capitalism. Get the government out of everything. The government can do nothing right. Only the geniuses of commerce can do anything, like our water supply that has no piss and poo in it, or like our really quick and definitely on time and affordable train system, or like our really affordable housing that people definitely aren't speculating on and shrinking the middle class.
Private water companies are dumping huge amounts of raw sewage in Britain's rivers and off its coastlines. They're doing so to save money, to ensure returns for shareholders, and by extension, to guarantee massive salaries for bosses at the top.
And so, yeah, time's going past, man, and I'm learning this shit, and I'm like, fuck, and I'm starting to realize, like, I don't know if I believe all the things that I believe about right-wing politics, but I hadn't accepted it, right? I was becoming more and more distrustful. Things like this, right? One month I went on holiday to Thailand. I walk in a coffee shop, and I see the most beautiful woman on earth, who is now my wife, and she is Ukrainian. I go to Ukraine. Literally, during the war, I've been to Ukraine many times, and I've experienced air raids. I've heard bombs go off.
There again, more attacks. Putin must be having a slow day.
All the while, I look on my phone at all the right-wingers talking about Ukraine, and they believe that Zelensky is like, I don't know, a blue-haired feminist or something.
I will stress this again. One of the greatest enemies of our nation right now is Ukraine.
And they're trying...
Oh, Tim Pool. All right, so, do you know anything about Tim Pool?
No.
So, one of the reasons why we're doing what we're doing, Billy, is because I want to be a part, in some way, of, a media movement that is moving against people who are funded, right, by, the Russians, right? And, I mean, This is Tim Pool, this is Dave Rubin, and, of course, they think they have a plausible deniability, take, but everybody knows.
Trying to say that it's actually NATO, and NATO are the bad guys, and America's bad, even though we're pro-America, America is bad. And, I'm learning more about the Ukrainian conflict and all the history of how it came to be and why we defend them and why we can't allow Russia to just go and take over sovereign nations. And so you learn more and more about this. But then there was two people I come across that really cemented the change, right? So I'm becoming distrustful of the right. I'm starting to see their takes on Ukraine as being ridiculous. And then I come across a streamer. So right now we're deep in the sort of Andrew Tate era. Andrew Tate has blown up, and at first it was kind of, it was kind of fun. It was like, especially if you're sort of a young right-wing libertarian type, you need to get strong to look after yourself, look after women, looking after the people you love. Like that sort of stuff was kind of nice. I started going to the gym, I started doing all that stuff. I was always sort of into the self-help stuff, so all that shit sounded good. And then he started to talk about women.
To some degree, as a man, you have to instill drama in the relationship, because if you don't, she's going to get bored.
No, that's very true, man.
And she's either going to leave or she will instill the drama, which gives her control.
Then you're seeing all these fresh...
I'll give Ed credit here, because I remember talking to Ed about Andrew Tate, and he was telling me this is a bigger deal than you think it is. And I was like, man, those dudes are idiots. Don't worry about them. And sure enough, man, they really did. I did not realize the power and sway that these men that are finding men seeking advice and help, they need a better youth group, Billy.
Action Fit podcast and Sneeko and all this crazy shit, and you're seeing people making their entire livings complaining about women, and you're like, what the fuck is this? And there was one bruh who would go on these shows, and his name was Destiny.
Women fare a lot better post-divorce than men do, bro. And the reason why is because they get the resource, they get the money, they get the children, they get put in a better situation financially.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
Dude,
Let's talk about
moms don't live good on child support. That's not true. Have you ever seen a bitch on child support? She's not living the greatest fucking life.
Women fare worse than men in almost every degree after divorces. So the idea of pretending...
What are you talking about?
They make more money. They have better dating strategies afterwards. Men just do better than women in almost every single metric post-divorce.
What?
What, bro? Destiny was really interesting because he was a lefty and he was proud to be a lefty. He didn't try and hide. He didn't say he was like a centrist. He was like, no, I'm on the left. But he didn't play into like the left-wing woke crazy stereotype. He was just a normal dude who presented left-wing ideas but was really good at debating. Now remember, debating the left up until this point was Ben Shapiro debating a 4-year-old. But now you're seeing someone who's actually quite well versed in the beliefs of the right wing, debating them and winning a lot. So I get into Destiny, right? And I even was going to make a video on Destiny. I might do it again one day. And I had a conversation with him on a stream, but I was so right wing at the time, I didn't know how to make the video because I kind of had this mental block between really asking him sort of questions. But then the final nail in the coffin for me, at the point where I realized I was no longer right wing, was when I came across Gary's economics.
You need to have structures in place in your economy that prevent the rich from taking all of the wealth. If you don't have that, history teaches us the rich get all of the wealth. And once the rich have all of the wealth, ordinary people end up with very poor living conditions. You know, if you go to countries that are very unequal, India, South Africa, you know, almost anywhere in Latin America, very unequal societies lead to very poor living standards.
Gary is like a working class geezer and he became super wealthy as a trader. And his whole thing, his whole thesis was that income inequality is gonna get worse. And he betted on that. He made money predicting that and it came to fruition. Income inequality has got much worse. And what's interesting, right, is he talked about income inequality and why it was bad and why it's bad for house prices and cost of living, etc. But the thing is, and I don't know if he doesn't really talk about this too much, but it clicked, it unlocked this vault in the back of my brain. It was this old memory of a clip that Jordan Peterson had put out. And it was him talking about the correlation between income inequality and crime.
You know, you always hear this idea that poverty causes crime. That's a classic left-wing idea, but it's wrong. What causes crime, especially aggressive crime, is relative poverty. Poverty is when you don't have enough to eat. Relative poverty is when the guy next door has a much better car than you.
The right wing really loved...
That is such a bullshit take.
Yeah, you know, something we saw, I don't know if it was you and I saw this or if I saw it on my own, which is still possible, I guess. There was a talking about back in the 50s and he was talking about how progress was really booming then. By the way, the other correlation to that was the wealthiest people were taxed at a much, much higher rate. Like Eisenhower was taxing them at 90%, 93%, and he brought it down to be nice.
You know, the thing is, people really don't understand. I mean, the 93%.
Yeah.
That is after.
Yes, it has
people
to
don't. Yeah, people don't really understand that 93% back in those. That was after an enormous amount of income, right? It wasn't like they're taxed at 93%. Right. You know, like it's like
it's not overall.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because we were taxing the wealth of the wealthiest, we had money to be able to do the infrastructure.
Sure, and that's what he was saying in the 50s, right? You know, when we were taxing the rich.
And now we're trying to give them a 15%.
Yeah, they need more.
And
they need more tax breaks.
Yeah, it's just absurd.
It was 90% after 4 million back in. When was that, Bubba?
Eisenhower was 50s.
But anyway, so like the bullshit take that Peterson said. I mean, like he's not wrong when he says it's
relative poverty.
Relative poverty. It's not wrong, but he's not right when he says it's because your neighbor has a better car than you. Like that's not. No, that's not it.
Right.
Like your neighbor, you're talking about the people in your neighborhood, right? No, what we're talking about is like, you know, people that can buy elections, right?
That's right.
Versus people that people that are living on ramen noodles, right? And this is where we're not talking about like my neighbor has a Corvette and I have a Toyota.
Yeah, I saw it. You know, I'm pretty sure it was an ad, but the ad was there's this company that the board of directors said that the CEO can only earn five times what the lowest earner earns, and they give full health care benefits and $7,500 bonuses and this whole things and also stock options or profit sharing with the staff. And I don't remember what the company was because they didn't actually say it, and of course everybody's supposed to know it, and if you went to the comments you could see the name. But and the idea was all the folks that were of economical belief that if the CEO is not making billions of dollars, then you're not paying enough, and you're not going to get the best.
You're not getting the talent.
CEO.
You're not getting the talent.
Right.
That's what they'll tell you.
That's right. And on the other hand, this business was just booming. But and I don't know how. Like I said, it sounded like an advertisement more than an actual story. But it's not that I can drive a nice Jeep and the guy down the road drives a used car. It's that there are people that are starving who are working 60 hours a week, while there's other people that are working 7 jobs, which means they're not really doing anything full time. Because let's be clear, Elon Musk spends a little bit of time on each of his businesses. It's just not logical that he could actually be managing.
I think a better way to kind of maybe to look at this, and Ed said we're overparsing the words. I think if you're really wanting to get into the nitty gritty of the divide, if we're really looking at the divide, we're talking about the investor class versus the working class, right? And sure, there are rich people who work and earn money, and I think probably this is where you get a lot of disdain for entertainers because they get paid excessively for what many would see as a glamorous job. Of course, there's the low end, the bar entertainer, right?
I mean, they make billions.
Yeah, just racking in the dough in our tip jars. And
if you just worked harder,
if I just played more even and made sure that everybody drank more. But yeah, I mean, the point is that when you get, he's saying it's not about people hungry. It is about people who are hungry. I disagree with that completely, right?
Yeah, there's been a lot of neurological study.
Right, but then beyond that, it's if we're moving into what it is, it's investor class versus working class, to be completely what we're really talking about.
Exactly, Bubba. Yeah.
To argue about culture. They always say that it's people's the problems in society comes from people's ideas and beliefs and their values.
You said something.
No, I just commented. Bubba said, "If CEO is full-time job."
Really love to
5 companies at once, and
always say that
this guy in Doge, and also
the problems in society comes from people's ideas and beliefs and their values, which is super convenient, right? Because when anything goes bad, you can just say that it's because people are lazy or they're radical Marxist or this. All the while, there's
we've lost values in this country. Right? We just need to get back to the Bible, or we just need to, we lost value.
Or you're saying what they're saying, yeah, the values that we lost, right?
Yeah, that's one of the triggers.
And you wouldn't be one of these people. You wouldn't be we've lost. I mean, you wouldn't be like that, would you? Would you say we've lost values in the Bible? I mean, even as a pastor, I mean.
No, I don't say that. I think that's an oversimplification of a lot of things that make people, jump on their bandwagon, and they don't really ever say what that means in the first place. And they talk about getting back the Bible back in schools and all that kind of prayer back in schools. That's BS. Prayer's always in schools. Kids have always had the right to pray. There's never anybody, no constitution, no judge, no law that was ever passed that told students they couldn't pray. It was that the government, the school, could not mandate it for them to pray in a certain way. And then they point back to Madalyn Murray O'Hair in the 60s and say, see, it was this atheist woman that did this. No, it was the Roman Catholic Church who said, we're tired, back 60 years before that or more, and even probably going back to Jefferson. The Catholic said, no, you're teaching Bible and you're teaching prayer in schools, but you're telling your students that what we're teaching them is wrong, and you don't have the right to do that. And so by teaching, forcing kids to do prayer in school and forcing them to do, you're going to have to learn the Bible in school, by the government telling you that, first off, you're not getting good theologians. You're getting teachers who learn how to teach English and Spanish and math and all of that. You're not getting people who understood, whoever went to seminary. You're not getting people who understand what the Bible is. You're getting some other person who's being told by their pastor what to say.
So what you're saying, Billy, is in order to be armed in the classroom, you have to be trained when it comes to the Bible.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think it's disgraceful to me. There's a program that the state of Tennessee passed, and they did it here in Virginia too. And they're allowed to take kids out of school for an hour to go do Bible class. They get no credit for it because somebody untrained teachers are teaching it, and uncertified teachers are teaching it, but they're using school resources because they get to use the buses, and they don't have to do that. The buses take them to wherever they're going to go. Then they teach them right-wing Christian. Yeah, then they teach them, like in the county that I was in, Austin, Tennessee, they took them from the school.
I'm kind of going off track a little bit. Just give me a quick hit take on the Creationist Museum.
I don't know what that is.
You don't know what the Creationist Museum is?
Oh, no, but I know the Noah's Ark thing out there in Kentucky.
Yeah, that's the same. It's the same. It's the same thing.
Yeah. So if you look at any of the literature they put out, it's this idea that the world is only like 6,000. So they've got the narrowest view in the first place, and they try to argue that, well, there's proof that the Grand Canyon been created in a weekend. And it's just BS. And it's I don't understand why people lean to that. And what's weird to me is I have folks in my church who've been on a bus tour down there. Of course, they got COVID when they went. They went down to that. It's down from where I am. They went over there and they went to that because they were all excited about my brand. And I've seen the literature they put out, and it's this very narrow view of the literal interpretation of the Bible, trying to piece it together so that it sounds like it's all one voice. And it's not, there's nothing they say that's any good, and it's not even do
you think
it's not even mainstream for the right wing?
Sure, you're right. As a past, well, actually, I don't know, man. I don't know if I would say it's not mainstream for the right wing. I mean, this thing is obviously
it's not mainstream for most conservative churches to go the length that they go.
Is it?
Now it's very fundamentalist. It's very fundamentalist.
I would agree, but I think maybe there's more fundamentalist kind of like notion. Maybe not exact. I think a lot of people just haven't thought about it.
Yes, but even then, they still talk about 10,000 years. These people are trying to say it's like 6,000 years. So they're to a whole nother level.
Sure, I think there is a brand of person that's like the Bible says that it's true, and they're just going like that's just it, right? And I think
regardless of the fact that the Bible says the opposite in the next.
They're not interested in the contradictions in the Bible, Billy.
No, they're not. And even if they are, they're apologists who try to argue, well, yes, it is. This is why it is.
I don't know if you're seeing this in chat. Ed wants to know he says, are you suggesting that someone who didn't go to seminary isn't qualified to preach? I think many Baptists would take issue with that.
Well, first off, in the Baptist church, you can pull in anybody you want to come and be your pastor. That's up to them. I'm saying that there's a difference between preaching and teaching, first off. And schools have a standard.
Is there?
That
Okay,
if
hold
you're
on. There's preachers on the street.
Yes. Who don't teach anything.
They're preaching, not teaching. Do you think that they're trying to teach?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly every preacher is trying to teach something at the time they're preaching, but there's more to teaching than just preaching.
They're trying to be your father figure, Billy. They'll be your preacher teacher.
That's right. Get another Madonna reference. That's cool.
No. This is not Madonna. This is.
That's
Michael.
George Michael. Yeah, sorry about that. They both like men. They're both great voices, great musicians.
We'll have to talk about the lyrics of Father Figure sometime. Anyway.
But no, so in the school system, though, to be a teacher, you have to have certain credentials. The people that are teaching, that would be teaching the Bible in the schools, in these programs, don't have to have any certification to teach. They've not been educated on to teach. They haven't studied how to interpret and how to understand the Bible in a way that is scholarly. They learn. They don't have to have any tools whatsoever. They can be somebody that just, oh, I can teach Sunday school. I can teach this, and this should have higher standards than that. First off, but they don't, because they're not supposed to be involved in this program in the first place. So yes, I have friends and colleagues that did not go to seminary. In the Methodist Church, we are required to have some level of education. We have a thing called local pastors that are appointed to churches on a regular basis all over the place. They make up a large portion of our clergy. They still have to do training. They have to take preaching classes. They have to take theology classes. They have to take Methodist classes on Methodism and our doctrine and our discipline and
Wesleyan doctrine.
Yeah, and they just don't have to do it all in 3 years and get a master's of divinity. So
they get they've got the Pellissippi State Community College version, is what you're saying.
Yeah, or what used to be Johnson Bible College, and they call that a seminary. It's an associate's degree.
Sure.
Yeah, I get you.
Cool.
So yeah, I do think that we owe our children better than people who just came off the street to, without any credentials about teaching. Every church has the right to bring in, within other denominations. Our denomination makes the appointments, so we're unique in that way. Even the Catholic Church and Episcopal Church and Lutheran Church, the Pope can say, and we'll send this person there. But certainly the Episcopal Church and the Lutheran Church, they have a bishop that has to approve any hiring that a church does, and they have to approve the process and things like that. But in our case, the bishop says, you're going there. And we can say, well, I don't think it's a good fit, and they might reevaluate. But and that's happened a lot over the years. But I guess there needs to be some standard of expectation that the people can have when they hire a pastor or when a pastor is sent to them. That's my theory. I did a wedding for somebody in my first appointment a long time ago, and her father was a pastor of a Free Will Baptist church, and he couldn't read. Nobody told me that. He couldn't read.
So reading.
Could not read.
So okay. So
how's he reading the Bible?
Well, okay. So at this point, we just have to say this is a person who's preaching things that he has only heard, and we're hoping that person has heard accurate things and maybe has the right. Of course, I mean, we're talking about a religious book, and holy crap, the interpretations already before we even get to the English version.
That's right.
So, I mean, okay. So maybe to get to the point of Ed's question, maybe he's not suggesting that someone who didn't go to seminary isn't qualified to preach. But like anything in life, there's levels to this. And, you know, if you've gone to seminary, you have a more grounded approach.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's move on.
That's my
What
belief.
can you do? You can't change people's minds. So it's just like, oh, well, I guess we just have to accept the status quo. But when you fundamentally challenge that view, the sort of outcomes come from culture and people's individual decisions, and you start to realize that outcomes, you know, like negative outcomes, crime, poverty, people having less families, having less kids, that maybe doesn't come from culture. Maybe the reason that men and women aren't having kids and getting married isn't because they're no longer Christian and they don't believe in families and the nuclear family. Maybe it's because no one can fucking afford to have families. Maybe it's because most people in their 20s still haven't moved out of their parents' house. Maybe it's because they don't make enough money between two people to afford to have a child. There's all these things that are happening, and you realize that probably the economic system is causing this. And it isn't just that the testosterone levels in men have dropped because, I don't know, they've fucking touched receipts or something. And so yeah, the sort of like the needle drop, is that the expression? The pin drop? It all sort of made sense. I realized that I actually don't think everything is culture, and I think mainly things come from economics. I think most culture comes from economics. And like, yeah, of course, attitudes, values, beliefs, they also have an impact, but I think you cannot understate economics. And so from there, as I've had my fucking left-wing epiphany, my left-wiffany, I start to really realize, like, kind of the woke stuff, yeah, it's annoying. Do we need to argue about if there's an egg in a salad emoji? Is that really that important? And you start seeing, like, I don't know, Matt Walsh, where he's done this whole documentary, What is a Woman? And he's the expert in this, going on Joe Rogan, being asked how many kids are on puberty blockers because this is real fucking moral panic.
How many people have had this done?
Depends on what. I don't think we have exact numbers, but it's, if we're talking about the drugs, it's, I mean, millions.
It's a very small number, if that's right.
It says over the last 5 years, there were at least 4,780 adolescents who started puberty blockers
transgender
and had a prior gender
frogs.
dysphoria diagnosis.
If your politics spends more time talking about...
sorry, I talked over that, but I mean the exact stat here.
4,780 adolescents.
Not
who started
millions,
puberty
4,000.
blockers and had a prior gender dysphoria diagnosis.
If your politics spends more time talking about, I don't know, what toilet a transgendered person is going to piss in, or the woke brigade, if it spends more time on that than the cost of living, the housing crisis, rising inequality, things that, you know, are actually important and actually affect your lives, if you're more focused on the former, then I hate to say it, but you've been bamboozled.
Google react to radical vegans screaming away by removing the egg from their salad emoji.
So what?
What about my rights as somebody who loves eggs
yes.
to have the egg in the emoji?
It's an endless trope. These sort of moral panics, these clutching of pearls over social issues tend to seemingly always happen when there's economic problems. Like, I think it was in the 70s where they tried to ban Dungeons and Dragons, the board game, because it was satanic and demonic. It just so happened that the 70s was like a massive economic crisis. And so yeah, the more I made these videos, the more I started to see these patterns, right? These patterns between the 20s and the 30s, the rise of fascism in the West, and how that seemed to tie in with the Great Depression. And then you notice that in the 70s and the 80s, you see the rise of the National Front, the racists and all this sort of stuff. That just happened to be the same time as stagflation and the oil crisis. And then now, lo and behold, 2024, we're in big economic problems, and it just so happens that the far right is on the rise, and the Tommy Robinson Farage followers are now throwing bricks at mosques. It's a repeatable story, and like when I've made these videos, you start seeing these patterns, and you start seeing how it plays out, and it always comes back to economics. And like, look, I have no hatred towards people who are on the right. I actually feel a lot of sympathy to most right-wingers, because being where they were, I understand that they've kind of just been manipulated, typically. They've trusted people who present information that try and rile them up, that make a lot of money from doing so, and they distract them from real issues. And the thing is, they're feeling the real issues. The real issues are affecting them, and they're trying to work out why. What is it? And the right will always try and find scapegoats to point at. It always does it. And like, as I've learned more, as I've read the book from George Monbiot, The Hidden Ideology, Neoliberalism, Yanis, I can never say his name, Vokoris or whatever, his book Techno-Feudalism, I kind of realized like the argument should be about economics. The more I learn about the left and right economic theories, the more evidence that I can see that left-wing economics tends to result in better growth and prosperity for all people. Our system currently is great for the 1%. It's great for the ultra-wealthy because it monopolizes money into few hands. When you don't have rules to regulate certain businesses, when you tax people less and less, it becomes this like race to the bottom. And there's a funny reason as to why I believe in these kind of left-wing values, and it ties back to my original right-wing ideology, is because of meritocracy.
It's when you move so far right, you end up left.
The right always claim to believe in meritocracy, that we should, as a society, reward people who are good at things, right? And I genuinely believe that. However, I don't believe meritocracy exists when some people can inherit the best education, eat the best foods, have time to do sports, be healthy, have time to learn the oboe and the trombone whilst doing the Free Peaks challenge. That person has such an incredible advantage over the person at the bottom of the hierarchy. The person who grew up in poverty, whose dad's in jail, whose mum has to work 3 jobs. That person who then has to leave home at 16 to pay rent and they can't afford to save a single penny. And the fact that this group of people that are living like this is growing, child poverty is growing, I think it's utterly insane to pretend that there is a meritocracy. But the right wing, through a very concerted effort, has brainwashed most of society to believe that this is inevitable. We can't fix this. There's nothing we can do about this. But we know we can. We have in the past. Countries do right now. And so that is where I land. If it means that I now have to wear a badge to show I'm part of the woke brigade, so be it. I've accepted that through actually delving into this stuff, looking into social economic problems, reading papers from academics, not listening to Jordan Peterson tell me that the academia world is overrun by Marxists. I've learned some stuff and
we always end up referencing Marx. If anybody's still watching, one of my favorite Reddits out there is this philosophy. This one is the question that is misconceptions about Marxism, right? And it's just a fun Reddit to go down if you have like, you know, like some bigger questions maybe about what actually was said or what he actually said. And you know, like one of them, for instance, I pulled this one up just to kind of give you an idea. You know, I think you're right about your first sentence. Marx is very keen not to moralize too much about capitalism. He thought he was just telling it like it is, that capitalism would one day end and it would be due to class contradictions that made communism natural replacement. I don't know about the last part. Okay, I guess. Sorry, this was the sentence I highlighted. Marxism, that it holds capitalism to be some great evil. Marx praised capitalism for its productivity, but he believed eventually it would become so productive that humans would no longer need to work because machines would do it all. when that time comes,
Marx said that.
Yeah, Marx said this. That's when wealth will need to be redistributed, since it would only be in the hands of those who own the machines, right? So, yeah, I mean, there has to be some kind of. Eventually, we probably will have to like take a hard look at a UBI for everybody. Eventually,
even Elon, by the way, Elon Musk was saying something similar that way. Yeah, Elon Musk was saying something about that the other day. He said, pretty soon we won't have so many people that won't be able to work because the machines are doing all the work. AI in particular, that we will have to, even Elon Musk thinks that.
Yeah. So
I mean, kind of funny.
But at the same time, he's trying to like save society by, I don't know. It's.
By the way, do you find, I know this is a little bit off this current moment, but do you find it odd that people try to tell you it's why we didn't have children? People aren't having children because of this, that, and the other thing. It's because they didn't want children.
Yeah. So for me and Jess, we didn't have children, and you and Carla didn't have children. I don't think it's anybody's business, first off.
Right, that's right. But it's just weird that they want to tell us why we did.
Yeah, but I think he's just saying, the reality is if we were more financially free, maybe it would be a little bit more getting it on, I guess. I don't know in this regard. I mean, look at Elon Musk. How many kids he got?
So it's also ignoring the past, I remember seeing all the time that the free love movement was saying, we don't want to bring children into this world because there's war.
Right.
We don't bring children in this world because of it. That's not new. It's
not
unique to Gen Z or millennials or anybody else.
I do think being able to afford a house has something to do with it, though.
I agree that it certainly delays how long that
Jennifer,
people are choosing to do it later, but choosing to have children later, and maybe they get to a place where they say, "Yeah, I'm okay with that, not having them." So,
all right, well, let's finish this video. We are at the end of it, and we are at the end of our 2 hours. Like, I'm saying this like I'm a psychotherapist.
That's right. Time's up.
Challenged my way of viewing the world and had to challenge my ego at the same time. So I want to know you guys' evolution. Like, have you always believed in what?
We did finish. That was it. He's telling you. Go and comment on Jimmy the Giant's YouTube page and tell him that.
So that my algorithm works better.
Yeah, or whatever. So, do we have?
Are you wrong latitude?
No, wrong latitude is Ed.
Okay, it just I can't read anything he says because it says wrong latitude over top of it.
Oh, you might need to. I don't know. Maybe stretch out the box. Oh, it's real big. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Don't know what that is.
It's my fancy Microsoft Bill Gates phone. That's what it is.
Jennifer, thank you for coming. Bubba, also,
yes.
Let's see if we can put a bow on this, Billy. We started with the question: how do we handle young men talking about this kind of stuff?
So, one thing is to offer alternative viewpoints. I think they have to hear alternative viewpoints, even if it feels like trying to blow against a sail as the ship is going towards you. I think they still have to hear outside the bubble. But they have to hear it in a way that isn't
They
in
think
your face.
that they are hearing the stuff out of the bubble. They are contrarian, remember.
That's correct.
This is the alternative point of view. How do you steer them back on to, like, say, how do you not be your rebel self and go down this pathway?
Yeah. And you can't say, well, when you grow up, you'll understand. Because that always goes over really well.
So next week, we're going to continue to do some Jimmy the Giant stuff. I'm going to pull it up here so we can kind of take a look. See. So Jimmy the Giant left failed. So we're going to watch this video and continue this conversation right here, how the left failed young men. So if anybody wants to pre-watch it, I thought that one was a pretty interesting one, and it actually kind of maybe keeps going further on how maybe we can address young men. Yeah, empathy is rebellion now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cultivate
and also Jennifer, according to at least 2 books that are out there, empathy is sin.
No.
Which is just
ridiculous. Abundance is godly.
Yeah, it's well, I don't know if I have 15 or 20 houses, but that's just me, God, me managing it for God.
Yeah. Well, Ed, maybe you can prep me for next week since you watched it earlier. All right.
Hey, look, the wrong latitude I can read, so that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, right. Maybe don't read them certain parts of it, or at least I think the whole point of this is to, like, maybe the larger thing. Even when discussing the Bible, I think Billy would probably agree, because there's stuff in the Bible that we've said it from the beginning. You have to cherry pick the Bible. Like, if you don't cherry pick the Bible, you're crazy.
You have to negotiate with the Bible. That is one of the things that's a phrase I've learned recently that I really think everybody does it. You cannot, as a human being, not negotiate with the Bible. Because
as a Christian, as an atheist, I cannot negotiate with it at all.
Good point. Very good point. Yeah, very good point. But I would say it's not about reading whether they read the Bible or not. it is more about how they read them. And that's what, if you Google stuff on Christian questions or whatever, the algorithm give you this fundamentalist right-wing stuff right at the top. You'd have to dig deep to try to find things that are more scholarly.
Sure. Well, all right. Well, let's continue this discussion next week. And like I said, maybe Ed can prep me. I've already watched it. You can see the red line there. But we are going to we'll explore this further. And yeah, Jennifer, I believe you have it correct. Empathy is the path forward. We have to figure out how to make empathy cool again. Maybe, I don't know. Is that the way to do it? So yeah. I don't know. How do you do that? I mean, Bob Dylan. we need a new Bob Dylan. I'm not going to be.
What's the movie? Yeah, we need a new Bob Dylan and a new Martin Luther King Jr. and a new The Lives on Mars.
We need a lot of stuff.
And dare I say, a new Roberto Clemente.
No, we don't need any more. Well, I mean, we need the humanitarian. I'll take as many Roberto Clementes as I can get in terms of the humanitarian.
Don't be speaking bad about Roberto Clemente.
I'm not speaking. I just don't want to suffer as a Reds fan. Listen.
Don't worry.
I never saw Roberto Clemente. I just knew he was a terror, and I was terrorized by Barry Bonds enough. May he rest in his steroid coma.
I am one of the few that's still a Barry Bonds fan. So,
well, I mean, whatever, man. They were all on the dope.
Yeah, I think that's Tell me, Babe Ruth wasn't doing something.
Listen, we can say what we want to say, but part of we have a little discussion about racism and stuff. But racism, one of the ways it shows its head is like how you grade somebody, right? Like Barry Bonds, greatest home run hitter of all time. Right, and only years before that, it was Mark McGwire who popped that.
McGwire, Sammy Sosa,
and Sammy Sosa, and at that moment we decided to turn a blind eye on it, and still Mark McGwire does not catch the same shit that Barry Bonds does.
Yeah, that's right.
Hello, that's Wesley right. Curry II. You have come for the end of the show, so. All right. Well, guys, let's we'll reconvene next. We're going to do it Monday instead of Tuesday. Sorry about it being a weird Tuesday night show. All the folks who Wesley Curry is challenging you there, Billy. I think this
not a pastor is not a pastor of Jesus. Well, I choose to read Jesus before all the other stuff, and Jesus talked about empathy, caring for the poor. Jesus talked about loving your neighbor more than anything. He didn't talk about the stuff that people spout all the time. He never talked about homosexuality. He never talked about abortion. He never talked about all the right-wing stuff. So,
yeah. I don't know what this 34 days ago, given real bread from Jesus, has happened to you about 34 days ago. What happened 34 days ago?
I have no idea.
No time to tap. You know what I love about the YouTube comments is that we get a lot of crazies. Ed, I'm not concluding you in this one. All right.
Yeah, I don't know what Wesley Curry's saying. Jesus did not appear to me.
And called you an Allah. You're an Allah.
I don't know what you're talking about, Wesley, so enjoy yourself.
All right. Well, cool.
I never denied he was God.
Yeah, well, I have, and it's, it is what it is. So,
yeah.
All right, we're moving forward. Guys, thank y'all for coming and hanging out with us on a Tuesday night. And
good point, Bubba.
Yes, there is it's sort of, that's an interesting pass. Maybe we'll talk about it sometime.
Yeah. Not what everybody.
It's not what people.
It is the only thing that talks about. Yeah, it's the only thing that talks about anything about a baby being killed in the womb, and it basically proves the point.
I mean, there's people who stretch around like the when you're in the womb, I knew you type stuff, and to make it like something that it's not.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure Wesley's definitely.
Man, I just got accused of witchcraft. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, I don't know who he's saying. Did Jesus appear to me or you?
I think he
would know.
He might be talking about me. I'm the atheist, so he's telling me that I had a dream or something. Old Wesley Curley. All right, guys, thank y'all for hanging out. We're going to move on and see y'all next week.